identify social influence and be able to use it can be used out in the wild. So these are people moving around in San Francisco, cell phones. The black dots are the most popular places, bars, restaurants, entertainment spots. And if you analyze the flow of people, what you find is it's not one city. It's actually a whole bunch of little cities, tribes of people who don't spend time with each other at all. They all hang out in this restaurant, but not that one. They spend a lot of time with each other. And if you believe the social influence thing, what you ought to find is that the people who hang out together, whether or not they know each other, influence each other. Somebody says, oh, that's a great set of boots. I'm going to look for those. And suddenly Uggs are born. To take an example of something where the argument goes against doing it, right? Sorry. Anyway, so if you break it into these groups, you find that there are these subgroups within San Francisco, and they have very, very different characteristics. So it's a complicated thing. People move to San Francisco, they may join a group because of certain features they see. Oh, this looks like a fun group. But once they join the group, they become more and more like the group. And that's predicted by the social influence function. So what you find is that you go and analyze it. One group does BlackBerries, the other does iPhones. One group suffers from diabetes, the other from HIV. Because we're looking at behavioral demographics here. What are the behaviors of these different groups? And of course, a lot of chronic diseases are a function of behavior. They should have different behavior characteristics. So the lift associated with this type of behavioral demographics is between 5 and 10, the sort of things that you can get from just normal demographics. And you can use it in a variety of ways. So you can say, what sort of people are going to walk by this place in this city in the morning? And you look at these different tribes, and you look at where they go. So this tribe goes to a lot of coffee shops. And they all walk by here in the morning, and there's no coffee shops. It's a good place for a coffee shop. Okay? Now, if you look at what Starbucks actually does, they're not anything like this sophisticated. This is far more effective. Or if you're city management, you can say, well, these guys here, the green dot ones on a couple slides back, those guys have almost 30 times the risk of alcohol poisoning. They like to party. So, at 4 in the morning, or 2 in the morning, you want to put the extra cops where they are. Okay? So, shaping social influence. So, we have this way of describing people that looks like your immune system. It's not a function of logic and stuff like that. It's a function of you harvesting ideas, batting them around with the people you spend time with, and adopting them, of you being copied. Of you doing the correct strategy in the 90% of your time. Can we influence that? Can we shape your behavior? The answer is yes. So the normal way you shape behavior, if I want A, for instance, or B to be more active or do some other thing, what would I do? Well, I'd give them an incentive, or I'd penalize them. Okay? That's the standard economic argument. But I said that behavior is mostly a function of this social influence, not so much of internal influence. Okay? So one more modern answer is I'm going to get an incentive, but I'm going to let him see what the yellow guys, his buddies, do. Right? And that actually works. So there's companies like O-Power that do that to encourage people to reduce their energy and so forth. What we did was something different. We said, well, look at the equations. Actually, it's far more cost effective to give rewards to the yellow guys and not to A. So that's what we did. We took a community of young families, and we broke them into 3 chunks. One we gave rewards, one we gave rewards plus social media, and the third, we gave the people they spent time with, their buddies, rewards if they changed their behavior. And the social media was actually more effective than the direct rewards. But this way of rewarding, of leveraging social influence, was twice as dollar efficient as the social media. That means it took half the dollars to get the same effect, and 10 times as more powerful as normal incentive mechanisms, the sort of Groupon type thing. So, I haven't shown you all the equations here, but there are equations behind all of this, and you can optimize those equations. So if I'm on a social network, or if I'm your telephone carrier, like you, Steve, since we're a telephone carrier, I can know a lot about what you do. And I can see when you're under a lot of social influence, because the people you interact with are all adopting some behavior, or whether you're not. And what I can do is I can coupon you in proportion to your social influence. If you're about to buy, because you have all this influence on you, a little tiny coupon will do. If you're an outlier, I'll probably wait until I get more people who have adopted around you. I'll try and strategize to have a wave that takes over. And you can actually map out campaigns like this, where you can predict, using the data as you go, exactly what your conversion rate and what the 95 percentile error bars are. So you give me a budget, I can tell you how many people will convert, and I can tell you the order in which you're supposed to coupon them or give them incentives in order to achieve this. Now, you probably heard a lot about campaigns before, but as far as I'm aware, there has never been anything where you can actually mathematically optimize it and watch it as it goes. Now, it requires a lot of knowledge about people to do this. I have to know who your buddies are, and I have to know what they're doing in order to do this. And we've used this on the stock market, not the stock, the Forex exchange, and on app downloads. It seems to work. We're doing some other larger interventions. But you can actually shape behavior this way. So that's the reason why people like the EU Consumer Convention says things like, personal data is the new oil of the internet and the new currency of the digital world. Because you can do stuff that's unimaginable. And it should make you very nervous, because people are going to do that to you. So about 4 years ago, I started arguing that we needed a new deal on data. The current privacy laws, the current way of handling data was wrong. And I persuaded the World Economic Forum to start a project called Rethinking Personal Data. And over the years, we've had a series of conversations with the CEOs of Microsoft, Google, Verizon, MasterCharge, etc. Their legal counsel, also the chairman of the Federal Trade Commission, EU Commissioner for Commerce, White House special delegates, etc., about this problem. And the good news is there's a win-win-win solution. So the constraints are you, the citizen, the consumer, need to be protected. The companies that collect the data need a way to make money. For many companies, wireless companies, media companies, this is the only way they see to make money in the future. They're going broke. They're really desperate to use this sort of data. And of course, government would like to do a better job. If I can watch people's behavior, I can stop infectious diseases very quickly. We've shown that using this sort of data, we can do a very good job of detecting outbreaks of flu and stopping them immediately. We can detect depression, neighborhoods that are suffering in various ways. So you can actually do some amazing things. You can make the transportation system work better. You can make the energy system work dramatically better if you have this information. So government needs it for public goods, common goods. Companies need it in order to survive and make money. And citizens need a deal so that they can take advantage of these other things but be safe. And the real core question is, who's going to control this data and how? And I think the way to think about it, the way we concluded is, you should think of this data like money. It's an asset class. It's valuable. It's a commodity that you would trade, call it an asset, and think about it that way. It's not this sort of digital fairy dust, okay? How would you treat gold? Or how would you treat cash? Well, you'd have a bank, you'd have auditing, you'd have an SEC maybe, something like that. But the first thing you need to have in an asset class is you need to have ownership. Well, who's going to own this data? Is it going to be the companies? I don't think so. Is it going to be the government? Not in this country. The people that are going to own it are you. And it's really nice that both the government and the heads of all these corporations see this as a reality. Now, why would the corporations do this? So first of all, we're talking about heavily regulated industries. We're not talking about Facebook, Okay? Facebook grew up in the Wild West. It's going to take a long time to deal with that problem. Let's talk about banks. Let's talk about medical. Let's talk about communications companies, all heavily regulated. They have this very valuable data. They would like to monetize it by providing additional services or efficiencies, but their regulator says, over my dead body, and they have enormous legal liability for holding on to that data, because somebody always takes it out the back door. So what can they do?